Commander Isabella Drake stood at the observation window of Lunar Base Artemis, watching Earth gleam like a jewel against the void. Her reflection showed a woman hardened by war, close-cropped silver hair, sharp features, and eyes that had seen too much death. In 12 hours, she would die for the 32nd time. The neural mapping is complete, Commander, Dr. Patel announced from her workstation. The aging scientist's dark eyes reflected the holographic displays surrounding her. The quantum backup is stable. If anything goes wrong during the mission, we can bring you back with all memories intact up to this moment. Isabella nodded, her hand unconsciously touching the metallic implant at the base of her skull. And the enhancements? Each death and resurrection strengthens the quantum entanglement. Based on previous iterations, you should experience a 15% increase in neural processing speed and physical capabilities. Dr. Patel hesitated. Though I must again express my concerns about the psychological impact of multiple deaths. We've been through this, Doctor. Isabella turned from the window. I'm the only one who survived the process more than 5 times. We need every advantage we can get against the Nexus. The alien civilization had arrived 3 years ago, their massive ships appearing without warning in high orbit. They called themselves the Nexus, claiming to be refugees seeking sanctuary. Instead, they had begun systematically dismantling human military capabilities and harvesting Earth's resources. Conventional warfare proved useless against their superior technology. That's when Project Lazarus was born. If humanity couldn't match alien technology, they would turn death itself into a weapon. Colonel Richards entered the lab, his weathered face grave. The Nexus just detected our deep space probes. They're moving to destroy our last monitoring network. Perfect timing, Isabella said. Their central processing hub will be vulnerable during the operation. How long until the strike team is ready? They're prepping now. But Isabella. Richards lowered his voice. Are you sure about this? Dying 32 times, it has to take a toll. Isabella's laugh was hollow. The first few times were the hardest. Now? It's like going to sleep, knowing you'll wake up stronger. She didn't mention the nightmares, the moments where she questioned which version of herself was real, or if she was just a copy of a copy, degrading with each resurrection. The next few hours passed in a blur of final preparations. The strike team, all volunteers who had undergone single resurrections, gathered in the briefing room. Isabella studied their faces. Lieutenant Quan, demolitions expert, died once to save his squad from a Nexus patrol. Sergeant Rodriguez, sniper, sacrificed herself to take out a critical alien communications array. Corporal Bennett, tech specialist, killed himself to smuggle vital data past alien sensors. They were humanity's ultimate weapons, soldiers who had mastered death itself. The mission is simple, Isabella began, activating the holographic display. The Nexus hub contains their primary quantum computing core. We breach the outer defenses, plant the charges, and make sure they detect us. They'll trigger their standard response, complete molecular dissociation of all intruders. She let that sink in. Everyone in the room had experienced it before, the sensation of being torn apart at the atomic level. When they kill us, the quantum entanglement in our neural implants will create a feedback loop in their system. Dr. Patel? The scientist stepped forward. The resulting cascade failure should disable their entire network for approximately 3 hours. That's when the main assault begins. What about extraction? Quan asked, though they all knew the answer. There isn't one, Isabella confirmed. We die. We complete the mission. We wake up back here with a hell of a headache and hopefully a crippled enemy. The room was silent. They had all died before, but this mission was different. The enhanced resurrection protocol Isabella had undergone was experimental. There was no guarantee that dying this many times wouldn't have permanent effects. As the team dispersed to make final preparations, Dr. Patel pulled Isabella aside. "There's something else you should know." She glanced around before continuing. "The quantum entanglement is becoming more stable with each resurrection. The last scan showed changes in your brain structure. You're evolving. Into what? I don't know. But whatever you are becoming, it's something new. Something neither human nor Nexus." Isabella absorbed this in silence. She had noticed the changes, enhanced reflexes, improved memory, and sometimes, just before death, glimpses of something vast and incomprehensible. The mission clock showed 1 hour remaining. Isabella retired to her quarters, sitting cross-legged on the floor. She closed her eyes, focusing on the quantum implant's subtle hum. With each death and resurrection, the sensation had grown stronger. Now she could almost feel the connections, invisible threads linking her consciousness to something beyond normal spacetime. Her comm unit chimed. "Commander? It's time." Isabella opened her eyes, rising smoothly to her feet. She checked her weapons more out of habit than necessity. They would be atomized along with her body soon enough. The real weapon was her death itself, and the chaos it would unleash in the alien systems. The strike team assembled in the launch bay. Their small stealth ship was barely more than a collection of shadows and sensor-absorbing materials. As they boarded, Isabella caught fragments of quiet conversations, last messages to loved ones, personal mantras, prayers to various gods. She had no messages to send. Everything she was, every memory and thought, was backed up in the quantum storage banks. Death was no longer an ending, but a transition. A weapon. A tool. The ship detached from the lunar base, engines cold, falling toward the massive Nexus hub in low Earth orbit. Isabella watched the alien structure grow larger on their screens, an impossible geometry of dark metal and pulsing energy fields. 2 minutes to insertion, the pilot announced. Isabella addressed her team one final time. "Whatever happens, remember, death is no longer our enemy. It's our greatest ally. The Nexus thinks they understand humanity, but they don't comprehend what we're willing to sacrifice. What we're willing to become." The ship's stealth systems engaged, bending light and radiation around them. They were invisible, untraceable, already dead in every way that mattered. Isabella felt the familiar calm settling over her, the peaceful acceptance that came before oblivion. 30 seconds. She closed her eyes, reaching out with her enhanced senses. For a brief moment, she thought she felt something reaching back, a vast, alien consciousness brushing against her own. Then the ship shuddered as it breached the Nexus hub's outer defenses, and it was time to die again. Isabella Drake smiled as the alarms began to sound. Death was no longer the end. It was just the beginning. Consciousness returned like a supernova, a violent explosion of sensation and memory. Isabella Drake's body arched off the resurrection chamber's metal slab, her scream echoing through lunar base Artemis. Golden light coursed through her veins, visible beneath her skin, as trillions of quantum-entangled particles reassembled themselves into living tissue. Neural pattern stabilizing, Dr. Patel's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Quantum coherence at 300% above baseline. My God! Isabella's vision swam with impossible colors as new neural pathways formed and dissolved. She could feel every atom in her body singing with energy, could sense the quantum fields binding reality together. The 30-second death had changed something fundamental. The others, she managed to gasp. Lieutenant Kwan and Sergeant Rodriguez have successfully resurrected. Corporal Bennett's pattern is still integrating. Dr. Patel's face swam into view, her expression a mixture of awe and concern. But you, Commander, the readings we're getting are unprecedented. Isabella tried to sit up, but her body felt wrong, too light, too strong, humming with excess energy. The metal railing beside her bed had melted where her hand gripped it. The mission? Colonel Richards stepped into view, his face grim but satisfied. Complete success. The Nexus hub is in chaos. Their entire network crashed exactly as planned. The main assault is underway. Through the quantum connections lingering in her enhanced mind, Isabella could almost feel the battle raging in Earth orbit. Human ships, previously hiding in the shadow of gas giants and asteroid fields, were emerging to strike at the suddenly vulnerable alien fleet. But something else was happening too, something the Nexus hadn't anticipated. "They can feel me," Isabella whispered. "And I can feel them." The alien consciousness she had brushed against during the mission was still there, a vast and terrified presence at the edges of her awareness. The Nexus hadn't just killed her, they had inadvertently created a bridge between their quantum technology and the human resurrection protocol. "Your neural architecture has completely reorganized," Dr. Patel explained, reviewing streams of data. "The quantum entanglement isn't just preserving your consciousness anymore, it's evolving it. Growing it." Isabella closed her eyes, letting her enhanced senses expand. She could perceive the quantum infrastructure of the lunar base, the delicate dance of particles that made up reality itself. And beyond that, she could feel the Nexus ships, their crews panicking as they realized what humanity had achieved. "They're afraid," she said, her voice resonating with new harmonics that made the instruments in the room vibrate. "They thought death was the ultimate weapon, the final control they held over us. But we've turned it against them." The resurrection chamber's lights flickered as Isabella's power surged. Dr. Patel's instrument sparked, overloaded by readings they were never designed to measure. The quantum backup systems hummed as they struggled to contain the excess energy pouring from her enhanced form. Lieutenant Quan rushed into the room, his own resurrection complete but far more conventional than Isabella's transformation. "Commander, you need to see this. The Nexus, they're trying to communicate." On every screen in the facility, alien symbols cascaded in patterns too complex for normal human minds to comprehend. But Isabella understood. Her enhanced consciousness translated the quantum language instantly. "They're not just invaders," she realized. "They're running from something. Something that hunts them across the galaxy, destroying entire civilizations. They came here looking for a solution, testing humanity to see if we could help them survive. And instead, we showed them how to master death itself," Colonel Richards said quietly. Isabella stood, her movements unnaturally smooth as her body adjusted to its enhanced state. Golden energy still coursed beneath her skin, but now she could control it, direct it. The terror she had sensed in the alien consciousness was giving way to something else, hope. "Bring up tactical," she ordered. The holographic display showed the battle in orbit, but Isabella could see more than just ships and weapons. She perceived the quantum currents flowing between Nexus vessels, the complex web of consciousness that linked their entire civilization. "Their ships aren't just machines," she explained. "They're extensions of their shared consciousness. And now..." She raised her hand, fingers trailing threads of golden light. Across Earth orbit, a Nexus battlecruiser stopped firing, its weapons powering down as Isabella's enhanced mind reached through the quantum links and touched its systems. "Commander," Dr. Patel's voice was urgent. "Your power levels are still increasing. The human brain wasn't designed to channel this kind of energy." "I'm not entirely human anymore, Doctor." Isabella watched as more Nexus ships responded to her quantum commands. "None of us are. We're becoming something new, something that can bridge the gap between our species." The alien symbols on the screens changed, forming new patterns. A response to humanity's impossible evolution. A request for parley. "They want to negotiate," Isabella translated. "But more than that, they want to understand how we did it. How we turned death from an end into a beginning." Colonel Richards studied her glowing form with a mixture of pride and unease. "Can we trust them?" "No," Isabella smiled, the expression both human and somehow more. "But they can't trust us either." That's what makes this interesting. She turned to the window, watching Earth gleam against the void. Humanity had created her to be a weapon, a way to fight impossible odds. Instead, she had become something more, a bridge between species, a harbinger of evolution itself. The quantum energy surged through her again, and this time Isabella embraced it fully. In orbit, the battle paused as both human and Nexus forces sensed the birth of something unprecedented. She was no longer just a resurrected soldier or an enhanced human. She was becoming a Nexus herself, a point of convergence between what humanity was and what it could become. "Send word to command," she ordered. "Tell them the war is over. Something much more interesting is about to begin." The golden light in her veins pulsed like a beacon, calling to both species. Death had been mastered, but that was just the first step. The real revolution, the true resurrection, was still to come. The quantum conference chamber aboard the Nexus flagship defied normal physics. Isabella Drake stood at its center, her enhanced form casting golden reflections across surfaces that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Around her, human military leaders sat across from their Nexus counterparts, beings of crystalline geometry that shifted and flowed like liquid mathematics. 3 days had passed since the resurrection that changed everything. 3 days of negotiations, revelations, and growing unease as Isabella's powers continued to evolve. "The entity you flee," Isabella addressed the Nexus High Commander, a massive crystalline form designated Horizon of Thought, "show me." The chamber's quantum field rippled as Horizon of Thought transmitted a stream of pure information directly into Isabella's enhanced consciousness. The images hit her like a supernova, entire galaxies going dark, civilizations vanishing without trace, and at the edge of known space, something vast and hungry stirring in the void. The eternal shadow, Horizon of Thought's thoughts resonated in multiple frequencies. It consumes consciousness itself. 12,000 species have fallen. We fled here seeking weapons, seeking strength. Instead, we found something unprecedented, a species that could turn death into evolution. Lieutenant Quan shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Like the other resurrected soldiers, he had gained new abilities, but nothing approaching Isabella's transformation. "Why didn't you just ask for our help? Would you have believed us?" A smaller Nexus form, designated Light Through Prisms, pulsed with colors that conveyed ironic amusement. "Your species reacts to first contact with either worship or warfare. We needed to force your evolution. By invading us? By killing our people?" General Morrison's face flushed with anger, but Isabella raised a hand, her fingers trailing quantum fire. "They were right," she said quietly. "Look." With her enhanced senses, Isabella reached out, connecting the minds of everyone in the chamber. Human and Nexus consciousness merged briefly, sharing understanding that words could never convey. The humans gasped as they felt the terror of fleeing across galaxies, while the Nexus forms flickered with surprise as they experienced human determination and resilience. "The invasion was a test," Isabella continued. "But not the one they intended. They wanted to see if we could survive. Instead, we showed them something impossible. We learned to thrive on death itself." Dr. Patel, attending virtually from Lunar Base Artemis, spoke up. "Commander, your latest scans, the quantum evolution is accelerating. You're becoming a bridge between our species, but it's changing you in ways we don't understand." Isabella nodded, watching golden energy dance between her fingers. Each hour brought new awareness, new capabilities, new understanding of the quantum nature of reality itself. But with that power came glimpses of something darker, echoes of the eternal shadow's presence at the edges of known space. "There's more," she said. "The Nexus aren't telling us everything. Are you?" Horizon of Thought's crystalline form vibrated with tension. "We have detected anomalies. Some of your resurrections, they draw energy from somewhere else. Something vast is taking notice of your evolution." The chamber's quantum field suddenly pulsed with warning signals. Isabella's enhanced senses screamed as she detected a massive disturbance in Earth orbit. Emergency alerts flashed across human and Nexus channels simultaneously. Multiple quantum ruptures detected, Lieutenant Quan reported, reading from his neural feed. Something's coming through. Isabella reached out with her quantum-enhanced consciousness, touching the dimensional tiers appearing around Earth. What she found there sent her staggering back, golden light flaring from her form in alarm. "It's not the eternal shadow," she whispered. "It's something else. Something older. The source of the quantum energy we've been using for resurrection, it's alive." The chamber erupted in chaos as both species' sensors registered the impossible event unfolding in orbit. Vast shapes were emerging from the quantum ruptures, beings of pure energy that made the Nexus look primitive by comparison. The architects' horizon of thought's form pulsed with recognition and fear. The ones who seeded the galaxy with quantum technology before vanishing eons ago. They have awakened. Isabella's enhanced mind connected with the vast intelligences above, and understanding flooded through her transformed consciousness. "They're not here to help us," she realized. "They're here to stop us. The resurrection protocol, we're not just changing ourselves. We're changing the fundamental laws of death itself. The universe wasn't meant to work this way." Through their quantum link, she felt the architect's judgment, and their solution. They would reset this sector of spacetime, erasing both humanity and the Nexus rather than allow the natural order to be subverted. All this time, Isabella's voice resonated with new understanding. The Nexus were running from the shadow, but they should have been more afraid of the ones who built the quantum foundations of reality itself. The chamber's screens showed the architect's energy forms moving into attack position, their power making both human and Nexus weapons look like children's toys. They had come to enforce the universe's original design, one where death remained an absolute end, not a door to evolution. Isabella stood straighter, golden light blazing from her transformed form. "Well," she said, a familiar smile crossing her face, "they're about to learn what happens when you back humanity into a corner." Around the room, the other resurrected soldiers began to glow as their quantum enhancements responded to her power. Even the Nexus form seemed to draw strength from her defiance. "Orders, Commander?" Lieutenant Quan asked, his own form beginning to shimmer with quantum energy. Isabella's smile grew fiercer as she felt the architect's power bearing down on them. "We've mastered death itself. Let's show these beings what that really means." The battle for the right to evolve was about to begin, and the fate of two species hung in the balance. But Isabella Drake had died 32 times to reach this moment, and she had no intention of letting ancient cosmic architects dictate the future of consciousness itself. The fabric of spacetime trembled as the architects' assault began. Their energy forms, vast beyond comprehension, unleashed waves of quantum disruption designed to unravel the very foundations of both human and Nexus civilization. Earth's orbital defense platforms dissolved into their component atoms. The Nexus flagship's dimensional shields buckled under forces they were never designed to withstand. But Isabella Drake stood unmoved in the quantum conference chamber, her transformed consciousness extending through layers of reality. Golden light blazed from her form as she channeled power through the network of resurrected soldiers, creating a web of quantum resistance. "Their attack pattern is familiar," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that made reality itself vibrate. "They've done this before. Multiple times." Through the quantum link, horizon of thought's crystalline form pulsed with revelation. The great extinctions in galactic history, they weren't natural. The architects have been pruning reality like a garden, cutting away species that stray too far from their designed path. Lieutenant Quan and the other resurrected soldiers had formed a circle around Isabella, their own quantum enhancements resonating with her power. "How many civilizations?" he asked. "How many species have they erased?" "Thousands," Isabella answered, reading the information directly from the architect's own quantum signatures. But they've never encountered anything like us before. The Resurrection Protocol changed the rules of their game. The chamber's screens showed the battle unfolding across multiple dimensions. Conventional weapons, both human and Nexus, proved useless against the architects. But wherever the resurrected soldiers focused their combined consciousness, reality held firm against the cosmic engineers' attempts to rewrite it. Dr. Patel's holographic form flickered as she analyzed the data. The quantum entanglement from your multiple resurrections, it's creating a cascade effect. You're not just resisting their power, you're learning from it. Adapting to it. Isabella nodded, feeling new understanding flood through her enhanced mind. The architects built the quantum framework of the universe, but they didn't account for evolution. For change. They thought they could control death itself, make it an absolute law. And instead, General Morrison said grimly, we turned it into a door. A new presence suddenly touched Isabella's consciousness, vast and cold and hungry. At the edges of known space, the eternal shadow had sensed the disturbance. It was coming. We don't have much time, Isabella announced. The shadow feeds on consciousness itself, and this battle is like a beacon drawing it here. The architects know this. They're not just trying to stop our evolution, they're trying to prevent the shadow from gaining access to their quantum technology. Through their shared link, she felt Horizon of Thought's desperate realization. If the shadow consumes your enhanced consciousness, Commander, it will gain mastery over death itself. Nothing in the universe could stop it. The architects pressed their attack, their power focused now on Isabella herself. Reality buckled around her as they tried to erase her transformed existence from the cosmic equation. But with each assault, she understood more of their nature, their purpose, their fears. They're not gods, she said, golden light flaring as she deflected another dimensional attack. They're scientists. Engineers. They built the quantum framework of reality as a project, an experiment in controlled evolution. But their creation evolved beyond their design, and now they're trying to debug the universe itself. Lieutenant Quan laughed despite the strain of channeling quantum energy. Guess they never learned the first rule of engineering: the users will always find ways to break your system. A new alarm sounded, the shadow's approach had accelerated. They had minutes, perhaps, before it arrived. The architects' attacks grew more desperate as they sensed their time running out. Isabella's enhanced mind raced through possibilities, analyzing patterns that spanned billions of years. She saw the architects' original design, their vision of a perfectly ordered cosmos. She saw the shadow's emergence as consciousness evolved in unexpected ways, developing quantum connections the architects never intended. And she saw the solution. The Resurrection Protocol, she said suddenly. It's not just about cheating death. It's about controlled quantum evolution. The very thing the architects wanted to achieve. She reached out, connecting with both human and Nexus minds simultaneously. Look at what we've accomplished in just days. Two species, former enemies, now linked in ways that transcend ordinary consciousness. We're not breaking the universe's design, we're fulfilling its ultimate purpose. Through their quantum link, understanding flowed between humans and the Nexus. The architects had created the framework for reality but feared the chaos of true evolution. The shadow was consciousness evolved without control or purpose, consuming everything in its path. But humanity's Resurrection Protocol offered a third path, guided evolution through controlled death and rebirth. We can show them, Isabella said, her voice carrying to all minds, organic and quantum alike. Not just the architects, but the shadow too. There's a way to evolve without losing control, to transcend current limitations without destroying what came before. The chamber filled with golden light as Isabella drew power from every resurrected soldier, every quantum-enhanced mind. Around Earth, reality itself seemed to hold its breath as three forces converged: the architect's rigid order, the shadow's chaotic hunger, and humanity's newfound mastery over death itself. The Nexus found Earth running from the shadow, Isabella said. But maybe that's not what really brought them here. Maybe the universe itself is evolving, pushing us together, creating something new. She raised her hands, golden energy swirling around her transformed form. The time for running, for fighting, for fearing the unknown was over. As the shadow's vast presence approached and the architects prepared their final assault, Isabella Drake prepared to show them all what humanity's mastery of death really meant. The true test of their evolution was about to begin. Reality fractured as three cosmic forces converged above Earth. The architects' forms blazed with the light of creation itself, their power threatening to unmake everything that humans and the Nexus had built. The eternal shadow's vast darkness stretched across spacetime, its hunger resonating through quantum fields. And between these primordial forces stood Isabella Drake, her transformed consciousness bridging dimensions as golden energy poured from her form. "Everyone linked?" she asked, her voice carrying through the quantum network connecting all resurrected soldiers. "Ready, Commander," Lieutenant Quan confirmed. Around him, the other enhanced humans glowed with shared power. Through their connection, Isabella felt their trust, their determination, their willingness to die one final time if necessary. The Nexus ships had formed a defensive sphere around Earth, their crystalline crews channeling energy through their quantum technology. Horizon of Thought's consciousness touched Isabella's mind. "We stand with you, bridge between deaths. Our evolution is joined with yours." Time seemed to slow as Isabella reached out with her enhanced senses, touching the vast intelligences that threatened to tear reality apart. The architect's thoughts were pure mathematics, elegant equations that defined the boundaries of existence. The shadow's consciousness was entropy incarnate, endless hunger given form and purpose. "I understand now," Isabella said, golden light swirling around her. The architects built the quantum framework of reality, but they wanted to control every aspect of evolution. The shadow is the opposite, pure chaos, uncontrolled advancement consuming everything in its path. But humanity, we found a middle way. She raised her hands, and every resurrected soldier channeled their power through her. The quantum energy they had gained through multiple deaths resonated with the very fabric of spacetime. "The resurrection protocol isn't just about cheating death," Isabella continued, her consciousness expanding to encompass both allies and enemies. "It's about controlled transcendence. Each death, each rebirth, is a step on an evolutionary ladder that we build ourselves." The architect's attack paused as they processed this new information. The shadow's advance slowed, its vast consciousness touching Isabella's enhanced mind with something almost like curiosity. Through their shared quantum link, Dr. Patel's voice carried urgent warning. "Commander, your power levels are approaching critical. The human form wasn't meant to channel this much quantum energy." "Then it's time to prove what humanity does best," Isabella smiled. "Adapt." She opened herself fully to the quantum forces surging through reality. The architect's power, the shadow's hunger, the combined consciousness of humans and Nexus, she accepted it all. Golden light exploded from her form as her transformation reached its final stage. "You created the universe," she addressed the architects, her voice resonating across dimensions, "but you feared what it might become. You tried to control evolution itself." The shadow's vast presence pressed closer, drawn by the unprecedented merging of consciousnesses. Isabella turned her attention to it. "And you evolved without purpose or control, consuming everything in a blind drive to transcend. But there's another way." Lieutenant Quan gasped as understanding flowed through their quantum link. "Commander, you're not just channeling the energy. You're transforming it." Isabella nodded, her form becoming increasingly difficult to perceive as she existed across multiple levels of reality simultaneously. "Every death teaches us something. Every resurrection makes us stronger. But strength without purpose is chaos, and purpose without growth is stagnation." The quantum conference chamber filled with impossible light as Isabella Drake implemented her solution. She had died 32 times to reach this moment, each death and resurrection teaching her more about the nature of consciousness itself. Now she would use that knowledge to remake reality. Golden energy exploded outward from her transformed being, touching every quantum particle in range. Where it reached the architects, their rigid mathematical patterns gained new flexibility, new potential for controlled evolution. Where it touched the shadow, its chaos gained purpose and direction. The universe wasn't meant to be either purely ordered or purely chaotic. Isabella's voice echoed through all minds as reality itself began to shift. It was meant to dance between the two, death and rebirth, creating endless new patterns of existence. Through their quantum link, humans and Nexus watched in awe as she rewrote the fundamental laws of cosmic evolution. The Resurrection Protocol's energy spread like a wave through spacetime, offering all consciousness a path between perfect order and perfect chaos. The architects' forms pulsed with new understanding as their billion-year experiment gained depths they had never imagined. The shadow's hunger transformed into something more refined, more purposeful. But the power proving too much for even Isabella's enhanced form. Golden light began to consume her as she held the fabric of reality in its new configuration. "Commander." Lieutenant Quan reached for her through their quantum link. "You're burning up." Isabella laughed, the sound carrying harmonics that made the universe sing. "Death is just a door, remember? And this time I'm leaving it open for everyone." Her consciousness expanded one final time, touching every mind in range. In that moment of connection, both humans and Nexus understood. Isabella Drake wasn't just dying, she was transcending, becoming one with the quantum framework of reality itself. Her sacrifice would bridge the gap between order and chaos, showing all conscious beings a path to controlled evolution. The Resurrection Protocol was just the beginning. Her voice echoed as her physical form dissolved into pure quantum energy. Now every species can choose its own path of transcendence. Death is no longer an end, it's a chance to become something more. Golden light suffused the solar system as Isabella's consciousness merged with the quantum fabric of spacetime. The architects withdrew, their purpose transformed by this new understanding of evolution. The shadow retreated, its hunger satisfied by the promise of purposeful transcendence. In the quantum conference chamber, humans and Nexus stood together, watching as reality itself was reborn. The war was over. The age of controlled transcendence had begun. And somewhere in the quantum fields that connected all consciousness, Isabella Drake's laughter still echoed, an endless reminder that death was no longer humanity's greatest fear. It was their greatest gift to the universe.